Hello, I'm Bohdan Nahaylo, the chief editor of Kyiv Post, and I'm very pleased to have today as our guest at Kyiv Post Reguly, who is the Europe bureau chief for Canada's leading newspaper, the Globe and Mail. Welcome to Kyiv and welcome to our office.
Great to be here, thank you.
Let's start by telling our viewers a little bit about you. Where have you been based? What kind of journalism have you been involved in over the years?
I've been the European bureau chief for the Globe and Mail, which is the national paper of Canada. We're a sister company to Reuters, by the way, so it's the Thompson family of Toronto owns us, and it's great to have a wealthy family to pay the bills. And I've been in Rome actually for 16 years, but I cover all of Europe. I used to cover Russia when we could get in. We're blacklisted now, the newspaper is. Middle East, North Africa. I've covered everything from the Arab Spring to the resignation of Pope Benedict to the Greek financial crisis. Largely, I'm an economics, business, finance writer and columnist. I'm officially a columnist as well as a foreign correspondent. And I've also been doing a lot of climate change. I even covered the London and Sochi Olympics. So, I mean, every day is different, and I just love the variety because I have a very short attention span.
Okay, Eric, you've convinced us. You've almost completed your apprenticeship as a journalist. Let's talk a bit about the mood that you're seeing in Europe before we get to Ukraine or Canada, say. How has the mood changed over the last year or two? Not just because of the war, Russia, Ukraine, economic conditions, prospects for the future, the right coming to power in many countries. What's your take on where Europe's at this stage?
I think the mood I'm sensing is a backlash to migration everywhere. Certainly in Germany with the rise of AfD. Brexit, of course, that had a huge migration component, which seems to have backfired. In Italy, where I'm based, Giorgia Meloni, the far-right prime minister, has made an anti-migration stance. Certainly the central part of her political platform. She has yet to deliver on it, but she probably will. The irony in living in Italy and living under an anti-migrant government is that Italy is depopulating rapidly, like really rapidly. You can buy entire villages in southern Italy for €1, and I'm not making that up, because there are no people. And historically, Italy is probably the most invaded country in the world. You know, we've been Greek, Phoenician, Roman, Spanish, French,
Austrian,
German, everything.
Yes.
And we don't like migrants, but we need them. So I think this migration crisis will have to correct itself because of the demographic crisis in Italy.
Right, now we're talking about migrants. Italy had a lot of Ukrainian economic migrants, women in particularly from Western Ukraine who were working with old people or in schools
Yes.
or wherever. Is their presence still noticeable in
Yes,
Italy?
yeah, and they are largely welcome. In fact, my family, we had a Ukrainian cleaning lady and cook who was with us for years, who was just absolutely lovely. She's back in Ukraine now. We don't know where she is exactly. So yes, they are largely welcome.
Okay, so the obvious question, the impact of the war, Russia's war against Ukraine on Europe.
My sense is that there is a fatigue factor on the funding front. That Europe realizes this war is in essence a stalemate. Italy, has a terrible financial situation. It's very hard to win votes when southern Italy, the Mezzogiorno, is poverty-stricken in effect, but at the same time to send billions of euros to Ukraine. Though Giorgia Meloni, our prime minister, has been very much pro-Ukraine, but she just cannot be seen shipping billions of of euros and weapons to Ukraine when she has so many problems in her own country. In Germany, you've got the rise of the far right, the AfD, and they are very close to Russia. Rumored and not proven, rumored even to be financed by interests in Russia, though I don't know that to be the truth. But
and France has its far right,
sure, yes,
Le Pen,
yeah,
and all that.
yeah. So I think that I think I interviewed the finance minister of Ukraine yesterday, and he's very worried about funding coming now. Partly because of the political backlash against the war in parts of Europe. So money is stalled in Brussels, a lot of money, 50 billion euros, and about $60 billion is stalled in Congress in the United States. And he doesn't know if this money's coming.
Okay, I'm speaking to Eric Reguly, who is the bureau chief for the Toronto Globe and Mail in Europe. Okay, the mood that you found this time on your visit to Ukraine, has it changed significantly?
Oh yeah, very much so. So I think this is my fifth trip. My first trip here was in the autumn of 2022, and back then it was rah. It's a victory is imminent, and then I was back shortly after the 2022 offensive, when half the territory seized by the Russians was brought back, and the mood was still very high. My last trip before this one was late 2023, and I noticed then a fatigue setting in, and now I really notice it, that there's no sense this war will be won quickly. There's fear, as the finance minister of Ukraine expressed to me yesterday, that the money for the budget and weapons may not flow as easily this year as it did in the last 2 years. And I am getting a sense of fatigue and just tiredness and general lack of optimism, which I find really disturbing. And that will only intensify unless the United States and Brussels get moving on the funding front.
Okay, you're from Canada, which has a large Ukrainian population, or traditionally
Huge,
has
yes,
had.
yeah.
Is there Ukraine fatigue in Canada that's being felt too?
To be honest, I don't really know. My sense is that the Ukrainian diaspora, which, as you said, is huge, it's in the millions in Canada, is still very strong. There's a lot of charity money coming here. When I was in Lviv the last time, there was a whole bunch of charity money coming from the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. To do what? It's for rehabilitation, buying 3D printing machines to print artificial limbs, working with children, sponsoring orphanages. So there is private charity money coming from the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. And one of the reasons I'm here is to keep this war, on page one. It's just been displaced by the Middle East, by Gaza, and I think that the Globe Mail does want to keep this war in the news, partly to keep the Ukrainian diaspora aware that this is still the biggest land war since 1945. In Europe.
Yes, Eric, good point. Look, let's round off the subject by you sharing your impressions on the state of reporting about Ukraine, journalism. When you read other newspapers or listen to other broadcasts, are they getting it right? Or is it, have they already accepted that nothing much is going to change and therefore let's settle for the status quo, let's promote some kind of compromise idea? What are you getting from your contacts with other journalists?
Well, I'm reading the Globe and Mail is doing most of the reporting among the newspapers in Canada on Ukraine. I'm reading the European press, but also the New York and Washington press, and I'm seeing more and more stories about what you and I were talking about, that the fatigue factor is setting in, the optimism draining away, the fear factor. entering that this war is not going to end anytime soon. My impression is that certainly the American press is getting this largely right, getting the mood largely right. But at the same time, there's not a lot of reporting being done, in the English language world on Ukraine right now. It's the Middle East is the big story, and that's sad because this is a huge war, and we cannot be seen to be, handing a gift to Putin. NATO is I am also the NATO correspondent for the Globe and Mail. I was in Brussels 2 weeks ago, and they're worried about this fatigue as well.
Right. So Kyiv Post has a role to play in all of this as a communicator about realities in Ukraine.
The Kyiv Post, yeah, of course, yeah. I read it every day. It's for me, it's a godsend to have an English language paper. Look, I speak 5 words of Ukrainian, so I basically cannot operate here without a small army of fixers, interpreters, drivers, and that. So I think the Kyiv Post is an absolute journalistic lifeline for me. Congratulations.
Thank you for your kind words. I've been speaking to Reguly, the bureau chief in Europe for the Toronto Globe and Mail. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.